Microsoft Office PowerPoint's not at the active window. Oh, is it now? There we go. Okay. Alrighty, friends. So thank you for joining for this town hall. This is an annual thing, as many of you know. So let us begin in a word of prayer. And so, O God, as we talk the business of the church, we do give you gratitude for this beloved community. We are a community of over 130 individuals who actively participate, and that's the ones who regularly are here. We know that our ministry touches wide and far, and so we thank you for your presence in this world. We ask that you be with us as we continue to strive to be the church that you are calling us to be in this world. In Jesus' name, amen. So friends, thank you for this coming today. So as you know, if you've been around for a while, I don't see any newcomers here, so I'm not going to go too much in the history of things as far as what this is and so forth, but this is the annual town hall before the ACM. The intention is to get some further explanation on what will be discussed next week, not next week, 2 weeks from now on Sunday, March 8th, following the worship service. We are going to go through the agenda and just kind of hit up the items that will be discussed. This is an opportunity, if you have some simple clarifying questions to be answered in this space, please do so. If your questions require more deeper dive into things, Linda, our treasurer, is prepared, and Ellen, as chair, is here to write down those questions, and then we'll return to answers at the ACM. So on March 8th. So as we think about the ACM, the council spent a lot of time talking and thinking about what the purpose of the ACM is, and is that not working? That's not working for me. There we go. So we were thinking about what it means to be the church. And so we went back to our statement of identity and think about who we are as a church, who we want to be as a church, and how can the ACM reflect these wishes. So we are proposing changes to the ACM, at least compared to the last few years. So some of those changes include, then I didn't write this down. So some of those changes include holding the town hall 2 weeks prior versus just 1 week prior. We have delayed the ACM, as many of you know, I think all of you know in this space. Normally our ACM is held in February, around this time actually, last week, February 14th. However, we delayed it until March 8th. We have also made changes to the agenda, which we'll talk about. We will continue to hold the ACM in the sanctuary and offer it streamed for those who wish to engage from afar, not from a bar, but from afar. And we will be using red, yellow, and green cards, which we've used before in town halls. So in essence, all the seats will have red, yellow, and green slips of paper, and we'll be using that to engage the will of the congregation. So when we have motions or whenever we're seeking input about how we wish to proceed, what you'll do is Ellen will ask as chair whether you want to proceed. If you want to proceed, you'll raise up a green card. If you want to not proceed in the direction it's going, you'll put up a red card. And if you're unsure or want to abstain, then you put up a yellow card. All of that will be explained next week as well. So no worries of remembering that, but we are going to be actively engaging to make sure that all voices are heard. So there are some changes to the agenda, so we're going to go through the agenda and just kind of work through it in this town hall together. So the enabling motions is how we begin, and these are standard, and these have been used for some years. So the first one is Ellen as board chair council chair, not board, council chair to chair the meeting. Sharon as our secretary to take the minutes, that non-members can vote, and the agenda be accepted. So going back to that non-members can vote piece, just to clarify, technically to vote on the enabling motions, you must be a member of the church. Then once this enabling motions passes, then you as adherents or non-members, official members of the church, can vote on all matters. So technically this first one is specifically targeted for only members. We are not going to keep track of that. We're not going to police that per se. We're going to live in trust and that the majority of people who are voting are the ones that are supposed to be voting. Then the new pieces to the agenda is first that participants will identify themselves when speaking at the microphone. So we're going to set up a microphone up front. We're going to ask everyone to come forward and speak at that microphone. And so when they start speaking, you'll be asked to identify who you are. There's going to be participants will have a maximum of 2 minutes to ask one clarifying question, to offer one comment, or to propose one motion. So a comment, a question, or a motion. Participants may speak Participants may speak again once everyone wishing to speak has had the opportunity to do so. So the flow will be Ellen will call upon a person, they'll raise their hand or raise their green card. Ellen will acknowledge that person, they'll come to the microphone, they'll identify themselves, they'll have 2 minutes to ask a question, ask one question, ask one or say one comment, or propose one motion. Then they'll return to their seat, and then everyone else who wishes to speak will be invited to do so with the same limitations. And then participants overall will have a maximum of 3 opportunities to speak during the meeting. Okay? So the intention of this is to keep our meeting streamlined and also to make sure we have an equitable space where all voices may be heard. Are there any questions over these enabling motions? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to talk about the next change of the agenda. So even though this is a business meeting, we do not believe, as the council and leadership, that our primary focus is business. Our primary focus is ministry. And our statement of identity is we are a Christian community that explores and expresses our spirituality, and we want a meeting that reflects that exploration and that exploring. So mirroring what the council does every single month, I don't know if you've ever read the minutes, at least in the last year, of the council format. It's been several years now we've used this format. We open our meetings what's called View from the Balcony. And View from the Balcony implies we're looking at things, big picture decisions. That's what the council's supposed to be doing, is thinking about big picture. Same thing with the congregation, thinking big picture. So we anticipate spending approximately 1 hour on this time. So the format of March 8th, we'll have worship as we normally do. We'll go into the hall. We will have lunch of some type. I don't think the food has been selected, but maybe it has.
No, the person has been selected who will be identifying the food.
So the person has been selected who, that's not there. So the person who is supposed to figure out the food has been identified and selected, but the food item itself has not been selected. So food, it will be a surprise on March 8th. We'll announce it before, but it will be coming. So you'll go into the hall, we'll have a brief lunch, and then we'll be invited to come back into this space. So then in this View from the Balcony piece, what we'll be doing is we will be looking at our strategic goal for 2026. This is a goal that the council sets with the new governance model. I oversee day-to-day operations, but the council oversees the big picture and where the church is headed. So they're going to speak to the strategic goal of 2026 and perhaps have some engaging activity for you. The next thing we'll talk about is the Ministry Innovation Team. This is a reminder, so we're all on the same page. We received a grant of $20,000, $20,700 from the region to go through the Innovation Transformation Lab process. And so we have a team of 11 individuals who are working with facilitators and coaches, professional ones that work with many churches. They just actually launched 20 churches at a time doing this whole process. And so we're very blessed to be able to get such individual attention from them versus being grouped in with 20 other churches to do it. One piece from this organization was the cultural survey. So as I mentioned in worship, last year we did the cultural survey. Many of you, if not all of you in this space, did that. We had over 60 people do it. This year we're wanting to redo it because we want to see if things have changed in the year or if things are still the same. People are feeling the same way with the cultural. So what we're going to be doing is at the ACM talking about the differences. So the hope is you'll do those by March 1. Many of you, if not all of you in the space, will be getting an email from me inviting you to do it personally so that you'll complete it, hopefully this week, so that we can look at the last year and this year. And then we're going to talk as a congregation about what we want to work on in our culture. And then that's going to be informing the MIT on their work. Additionally, we're going to hear an update from the Affirming Ministry team, who are going to talk about next steps in becoming an affirming congregation. We do not anticipate actually voting on becoming an affirming congregation at this meeting, but continue the conversation, making major steps in that way. Without talking for the team, I see Brian and Gloria here and so forth, but I think the intention is sometime this year, we will hold a meeting to actually vote if we want to become affirming. So it is down the pipeline. There's an end in sight for becoming an affirming congregation, but we're not there just yet. So that will be that focus. And then we're going to return to the conversation around washrooms. Many of you may recall before my sabbatical, people complained first about the height of the toilets. We have fixed that so that they're higher, so that it makes it more easily accessible for people. The other question is, our washrooms are not handicap accessible, nor are they gender neutral. They are gendered men's and women's. So if you are gender fluid or gender neutral, or non-gendered, then you have no official space in this building to use the washroom. Technically, you go downstairs, but during the week, that's blocked off with the daycare. So the question is do we want to do any major renovations with our washrooms? Many of you know the only 2 rooms left that have not been touched in my time here are the washrooms and the kitchen. The kitchen is working in good order so far. The ovens and stoves may need to be replaced at some point, but overall the kitchen's in good shape. The question is with the washrooms, what are we wanting to do? Do we want to do just cosmetic work? Do we want to actually make it an accessible building for all people? So that will be explored and discussed more fully. Are there any questions on the view from the balcony? So as you can see, those are pretty big picture items. Those are very big decisions. We'll have a conversation about them. No decisions will be voted upon at this meeting, as you can tell. This is all to facilitate conversations, to remind us of what kind of church we are called to be and are striving to be into the future. So then we're going to focus on the nuts and bolts, as our council calls it, which is more the business side of things, and we're anticipating 25 minutes on this. So we're going to, as a summary of what needs to be done during this time, is to accept the minutes from the previous congregational meetings from 2025. That includes the ACM, as well as the congregational meeting that occurred on March 9th, 2025. We will accept the financial statements for 2025. We will accept the budget for this year, 2026, and we will accept the leadership slate for 2026 as well. So right now, everyone's terms have been extended for the extra month until March 8th. So a special thank you to those who are in service and continue to serve until that March 8th date. So there have been a lot of people who continue to serve. So if you want to give them a round of applause, we will celebrate everyone's contributions and leadership contributions at the ACM for sure. So let's talk about the next thing. Any questions on overall slate of things? Yes, Dana?
Just to clarify, are those each separate motions?
Yes. If you look at the agenda that's printed on the table out front, that's a good review if you haven't seen the agenda. We did also email that out. So if you haven't received the agenda, let Pam know. But there are copies, and all of these are laid out in the agenda by motion and so forth. So you'll see exactly the format. Okay. So what I want to open with talk about is the annual report. So last year, we got tied down a little bit in reviewing the actual annual report. Never before, I won't say never, but in at least the prior decades, we have never edited the actual report. The annual report is created and submitted as is. So we're not going to be taking amendments to the actual report. We're going to focus on those pieces that I just named that's within the annual report, but the report itself stands as it is. So we're going to make sure we're clear on that we're just going to be voting on what needs to vote. So the annual report itself, though, is structured. Whoa, nope, going too fast. Go back one slide. Oh, there we go. So the actual annual report, if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, there are printed copies. I don't know if there's still some on the table out there. There is still table of copies, so if you want a printed form, then please see a printed copy there. If you want more printed copies, Pam is more than happy to run this off. Again, this has been emailed out to everybody. It's not on our website yet because it's been a very busy week, but if you need a copy, please let Pam or I know, and Ellen can send it. A lot of people can send it because they got it in the email. So the annual report contents. So the first is the land acknowledgement, which was not made during worship today because I never circled back to do the land acknowledgement or my name. So we do want to just acknowledge we gather on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Alcomni and Squamish speaking peoples at all times and in all places. We also have our statement of identity, which talks about who we are and how this meeting is focused and built around. Then we have the minister's report, and we have the committee reports from the council, ministry and personnel, trustees, nominations, and governance. In addition to the committee reports, we have ministry highlights, and our 3 ministry streams are Congregational Life, Spiritual Growth, and Faithful Action. We also have strategic goal highlights, being the Affirming Ministry team and their efforts from 2025, as well as the beginning of the MIT, the Ministry Innovation Team, and their starting that happened in November. So quite late in 2025, and yet still very impactful. Then towards the end, so then starting on page, I'm just gonna flip through it myself here. So on page 29, you'll start seeing the giving report. This is, so the giving report is done by Kathy Richardson. I think since we're all folks that are regular Deer Lakers, you'll know that Kathy Richardson is our envelope secretary, and she oversees all the donations. That information is confidential and is seen by a select few, excluding me. I don't see what donations come in, but Kathy is the person for that. So what you'll notice, what's different this year versus in previous years, is we have started accepting e-transfers, which are being utilized a lot by us. So we are receiving donations through e-transfers. We also receive donations, as the slide says, on Sunday worship. We receive it as cash, check, par, which means it comes out of your checking account already, automatically, e-transfer. And then there are 3 middle minister, we call it flow-through accounts because we're getting them, but we don't issue the tax receipts. So these are purposeful middle person agencies. So the United Church Foundation, which is from the National Church, Charitable Impact, and Canada Helps. These are organizations that help funnel money to nonprofits. So United Church Foundation is from us, our own church, but Charitable Impact and Canada Helps are generic websites that have many charities on it. So what they'll do is they take a cut of those givings and then pass the rest on to us. I believe Canada Helps is 3%. I do not know how much Charitable Impact takes, but that is an option for those interested. Kathy would be able to assist you, or probably Pam could say what that includes too. So what should be noted is we are receiving donations in a very diverse way, an inclusive way, trying to keep up with the times. Then the next page is the financial report itself. And we have the general overview that's done by Linda, our treasurer. And then following that is our balance sheet, income and expense statement, cash flow statement, the notes, and the 2026 budget. So those are all, pause. The balance sheet, income, expense, cash flow, and notes are for the year 2025. The budget is for this current year. Then the next slide talks about, still having issues with this. Okay, perfect. So previous minutes of the congregational meetings. So what you'll find, starting on page 48, is the minutes from the congregational meeting. So that is the minutes that occurred last February 16th. So that's on pages 48 through 52. Part of that meeting included amending our annual report, which I've already addressed for this year, not doing, but then also motions to amend the financial statements on page 53 and 54. And that was passed at the ACM. I'm sorry, 53, 54, and 55. Those minor changes were passed at the ACM. So then on pages 56 through, actually have that, 56 through 70 are the new updated financial statements for 2024 based on those amendments. Then, after the updated financials are the minutes, so page 70, is the draft minutes for March 9th's congregational meeting that was called to reconsider our outreach giving, and that resulted in a change in the budget for 2025. So the minutes are from 71 to 73, and the new updated final version of the budget for 2025 is found on pages 74, 75, and 76. And then on page 77 is our behavioral covenant. So that is the contents of the annual report. Pieces of that annual report will be used in voting and receiving at our ACM. So the next slide, I believe, okay, yep. Except, oh, one more ago. Can we go back one? Sorry. Annual report. Yes. No, okay. Sorry. Keep going forward. Previous minutes we did. Next one. Okay, so accepting the minutes. And we talked about, okay, so then this is what we're going to vote on. So what we're voting on, I'm going to read that out loud. So what we're voting on is the nominations, which are the leadership slate on page 26. The financial statements as a whole, we don't do them individually, we say all of them together. We'll accept the 2026 budget, and we'll accept the ACM minutes from, or the congregational meeting minutes from previous years. So that's what's being voted on. Is there any questions over the general overview of the annual report and what we're voting on at the ACM that's part of the annual report? Okay. So next slide is accept what we're going to vote on. So, or this slide, I'm sorry, go back, I'm sorry, I'm saying next slide, I'm misspeaking. Okay, one more, go back one more. All right, so the first thing we're voting on is accepting the minutes. So again, pages 48 through 76 all refer to the minutes and the associated documents with last year's meetings and their implications for all the changes that occurred. Are there any questions around accepting those minutes or financial? Okay. Then the next thing we'll be voting on is the financial report. So there are comments I want to make preemptively before we open it up for conversations. So the first thing I want to say is that every year that I have been here as minister, we have had our books financially reviewed by a CPA, a third-party CPA that is not connected to this congregation in any way. We don't know them. It was a cold call to a degree years ago when we first started. So since my being here, we've had 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025's books all reviewed. Pause, not 2025, it's in process. I'll get to 2025 here in a second. What I have in my hands are copies of the financial review. So what did happen, because we switched treasurers, we thank Susan and Bruce for their service, but whenever Linda took over, we failed to get 2023 reviewed. So we have 2023 and 2024 financials that were reviewed by the CPA last year. Based on their review, nothing has come to their attention that causes us, this is a quote from the letter, that causes us to believe that these financial statements do not present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Deer Lake United Church as at December 31st, 2023, 2024, and the results of its operation and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for non-for-profit organizations, which should be noted, how we do financials in the church is very different than how we do financials for businesses and for-profits. So these are available for your review if you wish to see, but they have been reviewed. For this year, 2025, one of the benefits of delaying the ACM till March 8th is our financial reports, which you have in the annual review or in the annual report, is currently being reviewed by the CPA, and the hope is that before March 8th, we will have the all clear from our third-party CPA saying that our financial standards, our financial statements are up to the standards of Canadian nonprofit. So we can announce that we have trust in our bookkeeper, we have trust in our leadership team that reviews the financials every single month, and we have faith in the third-party CPA who will clear and say that our financials are in good order. So, some changes did occur based on these reviews and conversations with the CPA from last year. And these changes are reflected in this year's financials. So now I'm going to turn off the clicker, Gary, if you just want to click the next slide, please. So first is, if you have a keen eye, you'll notice that on the balance sheet, there is no longer a section called fixed assets. When I first arrived on the scene, Susan and Bruce, who were retired CPAs as well, really struggled with this section because technically these numbers haven't changed in a very, very long time, decades. The building, for example, which is property, is not worth $667,000. This building, by Burnaby assessment as of last year, is worth over $4 million. But it's been a static figure. Same goes with equipment and fixtures. $65,331 has been reported as a static figure for decades. Nobody has any, to my knowledge, I'll say it that way, to my knowledge, nobody has any historical record of where $65,000 comes from. And we don't know whether assets appreciate, which means it gains value over time, such as the building, or it depreciates, such as our hymn books. If you would like a hymn book, they can be sold for you for $1,000. They won't be sold to other people for $1,000, but no one wants hymn books anymore. You get my point. So we spend lots of money on hymn books. They're not worth anything today. So what the CPA recommended, especially in light of the fact we don't own the building, we hold the building and property and all of its wealth as a church in trust to the United Church of Canada, the national church. Since we don't actually own them, then we shouldn't be reporting them. So we've just removed these lines. They're arbitrary, they don't mean anything, and so we removed them and taken them out based on the CPA's suggestion. Okay, next slide. So last year, based on the CPA's comments, he looked at our notes specifically. This is how in 2024, the year meeting, so the annual report for 2023, the designated funds looked like this in the notes section. It said the fund name, it said what it's for, it said the opening balance, the revenue or the expenses for it for the year, and then the ending balance. The CPA said that we should be consolidating all those designated funds. So we ended up with like 27 different notes or 20-some different notes. You'll notice this year a very dramatic decrease in notes, and it's because instead of doing this format, next slide, we've combined them all in one big table. So here's all of the designated accounts. They show the opening balance, they show the revenue, they show the expenses, and they show the ending balance for the year. If you wish to see previous years, please refer to previous year's annual reports. All of them are on, not all of them, but from 2005, I will say, they are on our website. So you can see them on our website. If you wish to go prior to 2005, I have them from 1969 to present in my office. You're not allowed to take them with you because we only have one copy here, but if you wish to review and go through them, please let me know. Underneath that, which I don't have a screenshot of, but underneath this table is then the brief summary statement about each of these designated funds. So instead of having each one be its own little ledger, ledger on the notes sections, we've just combined them into one big table. Next slide, please. Okay. So this came up last year, and just as a heads up, there are omitted variance numbers based on the software we use. So QuickBooks is what we use. What's happening in it is if there is no amount budgeted for that account line item, which there are a few that we do not budget for, then it doesn't register a variance, even though technically there is a variance because we budget $0. We tried to manually do the best we could with the bulk of them. However, we acknowledge that it's come to our attention that these three sections specifically do not have the variance numbers. So what I mean by that, friends, sorry, I'm gonna go off screen if I'm on camera here. So interest income, we actually received $1,559. We only budgeted $1,291, which means we got $268 that we weren't planning for. For weddings and funerals, we never budget for that. We don't budget people dying and we don't budget people getting married. That's the revenue that we received from the weddings and funerals from 2025. So the variant or the budget amount would be $0. So the variance would be a positive $6,245. Same thing with other income and coffee hour collections, which is being added as a new line item based on feedback we have received. So the variance numbers are not present here, but all you need to do is take these numbers here and put them in that column, and then that's going to get you your subtotal. And the subtotals are absolutely correct. The same thing happens with property tax. We don't pay property tax. We pass that expense down to the daycare. They pay it in full. Well, they pay us, and then we pay it in full. And so we don't budget anything for it. So the variance would be a positive $1,081.98. Same thing with Christian education. So we didn't break it out from children and youth and adult last year. We just said $1,000 in general. But for adult education, we had $18, which means we underspent by $9,881. We did expense for children and youth $172, and for other expenses $445. That's related to the Bible study that's going on now. So those numbers here would be $0. So you'd have to plug in the 172 over here, the 445 over here, and that would get you your negative $363. So that's all that's missing is those numbers are not here, and that's it. So after speaking with the CPA, the response was the omission of these numbers from the variance column does not materially impact the financial presentation of our status. And so we're not going to be changing them. What we're going to ask from the congregation is grace, and that we acknowledge those are omitted, and trust, since the bottom line numbers do add up perfectly, and it's right there without looking at any supplemental documents, that you trust the council, trust the bookkeeper, trust Linda, trust Pam, trust Kathy, and trust the third-party CPA. And so that's what the encouragement is from the leadership. So next, so let's stop there. Any questions over the financial statements for 2025? Okay, so we're going to continue, and we're going to talk about our current financial state. So just so we're all clear about where we stand as a congregation, I made the joke, which no one laughed, which I can appreciate. That as my brother says, you're only funny to yourself. I can appreciate that. So I say we're in business for another year. And so we live in faith, and as I talked about at the potluck and with MIT and the council and so forth, we need to live as a church on faith. These are uncertain times. The United Church, just like every denomination in the entire world, is facing decline, and scarcity and fear are on everyone's mindset. But we are not called to scarcity and fear. Our call is to live in faith. In the 80s, this congregation faced near bankruptcy. We are here almost 25 years later, and we're still going strong. God is with us as long as we trust and we live in faith. And so, as we look at our financial state, we are giving God gratitude that we are so blessed as individuals and also for the generosity of our people. So last year we had a deficit, an operating deficit of negative $6,913.32. What needs to be remembered with that deficit amount is that we purposely chose, based on the previous year's operating surplus, to give $5,000 to Dixon House. That's the March 9th meeting. So that negative 6,000, 5,000 of it is an intentional, we knew we were giving it away. So if you make a chart, a bar chart, which I guess I could have done, is 1 year is going to be in the positive 13, the next year is going to be minus, at this point, it's going to be minus 6,900. So overall, we come out ahead of the game. But you don't look at it just in one picture, you gotta look at the whole thing. So for me, I'm using, and maybe it's my own perspective, but what I'm encouraging you to consider is, given that we intentionally gave away $5,000 as good stewards of God's resources to people who need it, then we have a remaining deficit of $1,913.32. Now, that does not include the 4% withdrawal that comes from our investment account. And for last year, that was 17,000 something. 17,300. So clearly, we are okay. So I say that clearly, maybe you disagree with that. From my perspective, I'm not worried about losing my job, financially speaking at least. Next slide, please. So as of yesterday, Linda, our treasurer, gave me these stats. In Van City, we have a general checking account. It's a credit union, so the phrase is community service package. That is a checking account. We have $38,076.09. Because we're now doing e-transfers, and just trust us that it makes sense logically behind the scenes, we created a second checking account called the independent business account to specifically handle e-transfers to reimburse people. So this account is whenever you go out and you buy homeless lunches, food for the homeless lunches, or you buy supplies for the church and you get reimbursed, that's the account it comes out of. And it's $4,550. Linda.
We opened that account to avoid paying e-transfer fees.
Thank you. So Linda tells me it's not a complicated answer about why we did this. The short of it is the other general checking account would charge us a fee per e-transfer. So this second account has no fees associated with it, so we can make as many e-transfers as we need and we're not losing money. So then, friends, and I don't know if I can call on you, Bob, and pick on you. I hope I can with love. I remember talking to Bob some time ago at this point, and Bob said, I wish it was just the easy days back when we had one checking account and we had one investment account and that was all we had. And I can appreciate that, Bob, because I also like simplicity, but I also like maximizing our resources as well. And so this may get a little complicated, but why we do not need tons of money sitting in our checking account just sitting there. So what we've done is we've put some money, a good chunk of it, in term deposits. Some 90-day, you'll see 2 are 90-day, 2 are 30-day. The determination of why they're 90 and 30 is based on leadership, and I don't want to get into that in this space unless you ask, but there is a logic to all this. Everything is very intentionally done and talked about with our financial advisors and so forth. So we have 4 term deposits currently, one for $17,300, one for $18,410, one for $15,000, and one for $10,000. The $17,300 and the $18,400 is representative of the 4% from last year, January 2025, and the $18,000 is from this January 2025. We don't feel comfortable putting them in our long-term investments because we don't know when we'll need to utilize that money. So a term, not a CD, that's a US term, a term deposit is a safer way of making a little bit of interest for the money. So in total, at Van City, we have $103 and $336.22. Next slide. As many of you hopefully know by now, we have two investments account. The primary account, which is the second line, is based on the selling of the manse. We transfer every December 31st, 4% of the balance to help pay the current year's bills. This was intentionally designed by this congregation when it sold the manse to help pay the minister's, at the time, housing allowance, now the minister's salary. So the primary account cannot be spent. Anything additional beyond the 4% does need regional approval, which is not a huge deal, but it is something to consider. But the primary account, as of yesterday, was seen at $455,000. The congregational account, which we are free to spend as we wish, is $116,885. That total is $572,355. We work with an investment company to work on how much of that is in safer things versus how much of that is on riskier things. If you want all those proportions, Linda is more than happy to give those to you. We do anticipate in the world, in case you don't know, the stock market has done extremely well over the last few years, and specifically last year, believe it or not. We expect, or I say we, but financial people expect the market is going to rebound at some point. It means it's going to go down. So far, it's been going up at an incredible pace. Some point, it's going to go down and stay down for quite some time. So it is true that the 572 is dependent on the market, which is why we have the term deposits of $103,000 and the Van City account. So if something does happen, we're not out of luck. Okay? But I just want to say that 572 is dependent on how the market is going to do. We did meet with our financial advisor last week, or 2 weeks ago at this point, and we don't anticipate a huge market rebound right now, but the world is very unpredictable, so we don't know. But it is very fair to say that economically speaking, we need a rebound to happen or it's going to crash, because I don't know how much economics you guys do, but the higher you go without going down, the steeper the decline whenever it hits. Hence the Great Depression. So you purposely want to have recesses and recess, is that the right word? Reset, right? Not recess, recession. A recession. You want to purposely have a recession in order to keep inflation down and all that jazz. I don't know who got an A in economics here, but just in case you need to know, that's how it works. All right, so moving on past that, next slide. Current financial state, nope, that's, oh, shoot. So I got rid of it. So the financial state, can you end that slide? No, it's going to be gone. So the financial state is, we have if you add the 572 plus the 103, you end up with $675,000 that we have as a base. It's something cents, but you just add those two numbers together. It is worth noting that we have 38,000 of that is designated funds, which means we have to spend 38,000 of that 675,000 on specific things, but those things are part of what we do here at church. Okay? But that is what we're looking at financially. Again, if the markets tank, we're not going to have 675, but as of yesterday, we had $675,000 with a deficit, if we exclude the 5,000, of $1,000, $1,900, $2,000. Okay. Any questions around that current financial state? Okay, so the next piece is to look at our budget. So that is going to be, yes, so our financial position, so that's it. So hold that information, by the way, when we talk about washrooms and we talk about possibilities, those are the things we need to consider and hold into our mind. Okay. as far as the budget goes for next year, or for this year, no, sorry, for this year. One, I'm going to try to make this quick because I see a lot of nods and yawns and stuff, so I'll try to keep it fast. But we have this special contribution fund. So first of all, local income is envelope offerings is the first one, e-transfers. That's everyone on par. That's what Kathy Richardson does. The occasional receipted donations means people who come at Christmas time and then they give more than $20. They get a one-time receipt, but they're not a regular giver to Deer Lake. Loose offering is I'm going to throw $20 in the bin and I walk off and out of the building. Then flow through are these third-party organizations that we receive the money from, but we don't issue the tax receipt. So we've created amounts for all those. So total, and then we have the special contribution line. What should be noted is in 2025, we received a special donation of $11,748 that was designated to the Handbell Choir. So that is why there is such a big difference between the 173 and the 163. Then fundraising, we did do substantially lower just as a safe precaution because we like to be conservative with our income, because that way if we end up with a surplus, no one complains, or few complain, but then if we end up with a major deficit, then everyone's upset. So we like to be conservative with our amounts. So just going to pull up the budget because on the budget in the annual report are the notes section. So what we did with local operations is we budgeted 164. We received 179, but you have to remember the Handbell Choir donation, which was one time only. So in truth, we are reducing our income by $3,258.82. So we're anticipating having mostly the same level of income overall from donations. Okay. Next slide. Okay, yeah, next slide, now next slide, yeah, because I covered it up. I know what I did. All right, rental income. So AA Thursday group, Tuesday group, Al-Anon group that meets on Thursdays, those stay the same. Just because it's been spoken out, I just want to clarify, we do not charge them rent per se. It's a funny thing, we actually do, but we don't. So it's by donation only. So they choose their own rate and how much they're going to pay. But they are valued at our church and they're not going anywhere, in my opinion, anytime soon. So just in case that gets out, that's a false rumor about anything with Al-Anon and AA going. Creative Dance Association is 0, so not our fault. It's because of low enrollment within the organization. They are not meeting right now. We are storing their stuff because we have a partnership of 30 plus years. So they're hoping to have enrollments this fall, but they don't promise that. So we don't know what to do. So we're just not budgeting for them, but we're keeping them on the books because they're not gone. They just don't have kids. Childcare is 27. The reason it is lower than what we received is because the daycare rents out additional nights. In 2025, they have a special program in the evening times that they got grant for. So we don't anticipate that happening next year or this year, but it could. My Pop Choir is a community choir that comes, which is $4,000, and other rental income is $3,000. That would include a Dante and short-term rentals. Then we have the West Coast Baptist Church and the Yugoslavian Seventh-day Adventist, who are renters for the weekend. And so we anticipate having $58,000. We received $61,000. Okay. Next one. Then miscellaneous revenue, we don't anticipate receiving any grant money. I will say also the provision grant, the way provision from the region worked was last year we received 75% of the $20,700. You'll see the remaining 25% as 5,000 something as an accounts receivable. So that's where that is if you're looking for that information. Interest income we think is $1,000 to be conservative, but we don't know. As last year proved, we said something and we got more than we thought we were, so we just chose to do 1,000. Weddings and funerals we don't budget for, other income we don't budget for, and coffee hour collections we budgeted $2,500. The reason it's $499 is because that's what the expenses were for coffee hour. Then all the other money, which was close to $2,500, went to outreach. So the $2,500 is, so $500 of that $2,500 will go to actually pay the expenses of the coffee hour, which is under expense line. It's a new line. the $2,000 that we think will go to outreach. So we think we'll get that money in. So that's the other income. Until total revenue, we are saying 225, 932. We brought in almost 250. Again, remember the handbell choir donation of 11,000. So that will skew all the numbers. Okay. Any questions on income? Okay. So then next one, expenses. So wages, we are going to increase wages. I get paid more, Pam gets paid more, Barry gets paid more because inflation's real. So we gave everyone a cost of living raise. It is a point of bragging that now we pay all of our staff living wage for Vancouver, Metro Vancouver. So that should be a bragging point because that's not been the case since 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So that's excellent. Minister's allowance, $1,200 is my cell phone. Employee benefits, UCC, CPP, EI, etc. is $31,000. Continuing ed is $2,300. $2,000 for me, $150 for the choir director, $150 for the office admin. Holiday pay is for office admin, $507. Pulpit supply is $3,132. We spent $4,042. This was noted also. I'll just make a mention of this before. So whenever we did the budget last year, we put whenever my sabbatical was occurring under staff relief, we budgeted that number. But whenever it got actually bookkeeped in and recorded, it was all put under pulpit supply. So what you have to do with these two numbers with our 2025 numbers is to look at what both of these add up to and then realize we saved a lot of money last year. So we had a lot of lay services, so thank you for those who led worship, as well as some of our pulpit supply didn't accept the money, which helps us out tremendously. So for my sabbatical year, being gone for 3 months, it actually didn't cost our church very much money at all. So that's excellent. So no staff relief is anticipated this year, but pulpit supply was $3,000. The reason it's $4,000 from last year was the sabbatical. We did add this is not new. Well, this is new and not new. So one thing that MMP and the council approved was a new travel expense line for me for $1,500. That is for me to create an Uber account so that I can go to the hospital and do home visits and that kind of stuff. So as many of you know, I don't have a car and I rely a lot already on congregation members, but at 3 a.m. in the morning, whenever someone's in the hospital dying, I need transportation for that. So, and I'm not going to call one of you to do that. So that's what that $1,500 is for. It is specifically for pastoral care that will be tracked, that will be logged. There's CRA requirements around that, so that will not be an issue. Wedding and funeral honorariums is $0. We don't plan for that, but that's where the income is on weddings and funerals. This is the expense. So whenever we do a wedding and funeral, we charge for me, we charge for Barry, we charge the tech desk, the choir, etc. Then payroll services are set by automatic, so that's ADP, $360, and WorkSafe set automatic for $327. So we're seeing an increase in our wages. That's pretty much a reflection of natural raises for our people. Next line. Or I guess any questions on personnel expenses? Okay. Next, operating cost. All right, so we've added a line or two here. So we've rearranged things. So this is going to make things look funny in the future, and that's all fun times. But it makes more sense doing it this way as we've reorganized based on the current operations of the church. So we have the administrative expenses, which in bank charges, fees, which is $500. We spent $450. Insurance is set by other people. Office supplies and miscellaneous. The reason it was $9,500 was because of the review of books for 2 years, 2023 and 2024. We've created a new line down at the bottom, financial review of books of $3,000, which is what they charge each year. So we did keep it at $7,000 to offer a little bit of grace in case there are some unexpected expenditures that occur in 2026. Other cost is $0. Telephone and internet is based on the current bill, $750. The communications line, so this used to be under ministry cost or program cost, but communications is more administrative than ministry based. The reason I believe it was under program based is it used to be a committee. There was a communications committee, but we no longer have a committee, and communications is about administration. So it's $450, that's $405. That's because Microsoft no longer gives their stuff for free, so we have to pay for it now, and we also pay for the WhatsApp platform. Technology is $4,000 based on the idea we'll buy a new streaming computer. We were able to delay that because our computer's okay, but we just want to do it just in case. Property tax, again, we don't pay that, the daycare pays it. Repairs and maintenance includes $18,700. The alarm system still has not been updated. It plagues me at night, but other things are happening, so that's been delayed, but that's built into that number as well as other, and also the cleaning company that cleans twice a week is in that number. Utilities is $9,500, waste disposal is $750, and the financial review of books wasn't in this. It would be found up here in the $9,500, would be $3,000. Okay. So in total, we're going up by 55 from 49, so almost 50, so almost $5,000. We're increasing our operational cost. Any questions on administrative cost? Okay, next slide, please. So then our program expenses. So we run a pretty tight ship around here as far as program expenses. So we had a benevolent fund, which is people who are in need come to me. We spent $16 last year. We budgeted $100. Library, $100. Regional connections is a new line. So this is going to be where we're going to start putting all of the expenses associated with the annual regional meeting. So it happens every single year. And so we've created its own designation, and we anticipate it's in Kelowna, I believe, this year, or Kamloops. Kamloops. I want to put extra syllables in that. So Kamloops, and so based on airfare and hotel, we think it's going to be $1,500. For strategic goal, we budget $100 for social events, which is pretty much anything outside of normal coffee hour. So Ash Wednesday, pancake breakfast, that kind of stuff, $500. Coffee time, this is a new line added in, so we can start keeping track of that. Committee expenses, so we have the council, MMP, nominations, trustees. They have minimal responses or amounts assigned. Christian Ed, $700. Ministries, so we have the affirming ministries for $300, a new line there. Outreach, pastoral care, new ministry initiatives, and worship for $4,050. That includes all the worship supplies, candles, music, all the stuff. And so I'm trying to think, and also tuning the pianos. We now have 3 pianos in this building. We have one upstairs in the balcony. We have this one, and then we have one in the basement with the choir practices on Sunday mornings. So that includes, so we just lump all that together. So I was going to say something. Oh, so please pay attention. There are several new lines like I've talked about. They are all indicated on the notes side of the budget. So I'll tell you exactly what the new ones are. The coffee hour is complicated because of how it's been recorded in the past versus how we're doing it now. So we won't have much historical data for it, but moving forward, we will. Next slide, please. So to finish up the to finish up the program expenses, we have ministry flow through. So the premises, these are things you all give us and then we go out and buy. So for our book studies, we take money, but then we buy the books. For Broadview Magazine, if you subscribe to that with the United Church, you pay for that hopefully. And then a calendar for the United Church of Canada, and then orange shirt, t-shirts for orange shirt whenever we do that each September. So in total, again, what you'll notice is this $23,000, the handbell choir donation was included in our program expenses because it's part of worship budget. So that $23,000, $11,000 of that was from the handbell choir. So it's actually, and I have the notes here so I can tell you, our program expenses, I don't indicate it here. So you'll have to just minus the 11,000 from the 23, and that will tell you what the actual difference is between the 9,500 versus the 23,000. So assessments, as what is given to us by the National and Regional Church, that is increased by $2,000. So that's going to go up as time goes on. So the total expenses we're budgeting for are $258. We spent $256 last year. So we will anticipate having a deficit of $32,451. Now what we need to remember is that 4% withdrawal. So that 4% withdrawal from based on December 31st, that's already been transferred out, was $18,500. So 32 minus the $18,500 is around $14,000 of a real deficit. So that's the budget for us to consider. Okay. That's for 2026. So around 14. And yeah. Okay. Any thoughts or comments or questions? Okay. So next slide, if that's not the end slide. No. Okay, so that's all the financial reports. So that's the unpause. That's the financial reports for sure, but that's also the budget. So that's the budget that you're going to be asked to approve next week or 2 weeks from now. With that said, the leadership slate is one of the last motions to pass. That leadership slate is found within the nominations and governance report, and it is located on page 26. So in 26, you will see these names appear. So we give great gratitude to Dr. Shelley Ross for agreeing to be our new council chair. So thank you so much for Shelley to stand up and do this. So that's awesome. We also have Gary Forwood continuing as assistant chair. We have Andrew Hall as secretary joining us for the first time. So thank you, Andrew, for agreeing. We have Linda Patton, who is our treasurer. We have Ann Beal as our MMP rep. We have Bruce Van Leuven as our nominations and governance representative. We have Sharon Hamer as a member at large. We have Ellen James as a member at large. And we have me forever as trustee and minister. Okay, so that's the council. Next one. For MMP, we have Becky Armstrong as the new chair. We have Ann Beal, who's going to join on as the council representative as well, and Florence Robertson are going to join. So thank you to Ann and Florence for joining. And we give gratitude to Linda and to Elizabeth for all of their dedicated service to this. We'll give thank yous officially next week because we have several that are going off the things. But Claire Stegan for nominations and governance. We have Claire Stegan, Bruce Van Leuven as the council rep, Jeff Waters, and Wendy Kyer. And so those will be on nominations and governance. And I believe there's one more slide. So trustees, Joseph will be the chair forever. Linda Patton is the deputy chair. Shelley Ross will stay on as trustee, and Paul Anderson. So if you have the question, in case it does come up, can Linda be treasurer and trustee? Which was answered last year, which is yes, you can. And if the question is, can Shelley be chair and a trustee? The answer is yes, she can. So those two are both serving dual roles. So we give gratitude for their commitment to the church. Then proposed envelope secretary. So Kathy Richardson will continue. She's been doing it a lot longer than 5 years. 5 years means when the new governance structure kicked in. That's what that indicates. Proposed regional representative Florence Robertson. That should not be year 1. That should say year 2. So yeah. Second year doing that. So the way our polity works around here with the new governance structure is we do not take nominations from the floor based on our governance model. So you have to accept the slate or not accept it. And if you don't accept it, it means we have to go back to the drawing board and redo whatever needs to be redone. So you don't really get much commentary. You can't tell Ellen how bad she is. So don't do that like I just did. Sorry, I'm trying to wake you up. You guys are all falling asleep. All right, any questions on leadership? Yeah, Dana.
I'm just, can you clarify for trustees, I think year 5 is the final term for most?
So the way, so the terms work, so the term limits for everybody work that initially it's a 3-year term for every position, except for trustees. And then years 4 and 5 can happen with approval of the council, the minister, and and nominations and governance, and the congregation. And then anything outside of that is still up to, as long as they get those approval, they can continue on. So it's just, as long as everyone's approving it.
I guess my question was, are the trustees limited to the...
No, the trustees can serve as long as they need to serve. So because, and the reason we made that way is because there's personal liability to be a trustees on a church. So if someone is willing to be on it, and this is a random fact you didn't ask about, but in Alberta, you actually have to change the deed to the church based on names. They name people in the deed. BC does not. We just deed it over to the trustees in general, but there is personal liability and stuff. So, and insurance and CRA and all that kind of stuff, they're all tied together. All right, so that is the last motion that we'll have to approve, which does not have a slide, but you can continue because it's a blank slide. The last motion will be the motion to adjourn. So hopefully there won't be too much topic around that. Ellen would like to say adjourn. Would you like to make a motion today now and adjourn?
I do.
Just Phyllis a second. I'll second that. All right. Well, if you have any questions, so moving forward, if you have any questions, you have 2 weeks. So Linda is going to be receiving regarding all the finances. I'm assuming you won't have leadership questions. If you have leadership questions, please direct those to, I'm just gonna pick on Florence, she's here. So email Florence if you have leadership questions. If you have financial questions, email those to Linda. We are not necessarily going to be responding to the questions we receive before the ACM. So at the ACM, what we're going to do is we're going to gather all the questions that we have received and we're going to answer them at the ACM in front of everybody so that communication can be transparent and for everyone to see. So if you do have questions, I will say, pause, if you have a simple question like what is loose offering, Linda probably will just tell you that's whenever you throw $20 in the plate. But if you have more complicated questions, we'll answer those at the ACM whenever we turn to those business items, okay? So, yes, that's what I'll say. All right, are we good? Any questions around the ACM in 2 weeks? Okay, so.
Thank you for being so thorough.
Well, thank you, Ellen, for being a fantastic council chair. So thank you. But you're welcome. You're welcome. If you do have questions, I do strive and to be transparent. And I will say, if I can mention Janet's comment. So Janet made and this is pure ego talking, but Janet mentioned at the potluck that she's never been part of a church that's been so transparent, so communicative about what's going on with everybody. And so we do, as your leadership team, not just me, but all of us in leadership, try to be as transparent as possible, answer questions. That does not mean necessarily everyone's going to be satisfied and everyone happy with what we're doing. That's not the case. But what it does say is we are willing to engage and to consider, and we do take that feedback seriously. And I hope you see, based on this year's upcoming ACM, the council does try to adapt and change things as needed to make sure that we are living into our call as a community of faith that expresses and explores our spirituality through congregational life, faithful action, and spiritual growth. So with all that said, let's pray, and then I'll let you go home. So, oh God, we do give you gratitude for this beloved church. We do give you gratitude for all the blessings you've given us, not just in material wealth, but in the spiritual wealth that is found in these halls, the emotional support. We do remember Arnie and his entire family as they continue to grieve, and we give gratitude that in moments of death, we can come together and support and love one another. May we do this for each other, no matter who we may be. As we go out this day, help us to remember that you are with us, leading us, and giving us your grace and your love always. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, friends, it's on YouTube. You can watch it later and let Linda know your questions. So thank you so much.